Sabina Messent. Welcome to the lockdown sessions. How are you?
Hi there, I'm good, thank you. Brad, how are you?
I am very well. Thank you for joining me today. And it's cool because we could actually be doing this just around the corner because we aren't exactly more than a stone's throw apart. So we know each other from living locally,
Mm.
walking dogs, and looking after Scarecrow Festival car parks, which is where I first, I think, met, met you.
Yeah.
But you're currently a student. Tell us a bit about what you're doing. You're doing a master's, so tell us how you got there, and then we can dive into some of the lockdown learning stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So I am doing my master's in English Literary Studies at the University of Exeter, which is where I did my undergrad, and I've found some great lecturers there who really inspire me. So I was really excited to go back and do my MA there. Um, I am predominantly focusing on like 20th century cultural texts, so film, TV, and critical theory from like sort of throughout the 20th century, specializing mostly in queer theory, gender theory, um, and film, really. So yeah, that's great. I'm a part-time student, so I do some tutoring on the side for GCSE kids in this country and also for speakers of other languages in China. I've had the real privilege of being like teacher and student since I started my MA in October, which I think is a really fantastic balance um, to have.
So, Hammond, you started the masters during lockdown. So, was that a decision you made in lockdown to do a masters, or was that always on your radar?
Yeah, so I decided to do my masters probably a couple of months before the first lockdown in March 2020. Um, and I knew I wanted to do it. And then the lockdown happened, and I did and ah about it because I was quite unsure about being a student in these circumstances. A big part of any university experience, but particularly for me as a humanities student, is meeting people and having those discussions. And meeting people with similar interests or dissimilar interests and having those sharing thoughts and ideas. And I was like, well, I want to do this. If it's all online, will I feel like I'm getting my money's worth? But not just that, I might, should I wait for a bit? That's not what I wanted for my master's experience.
Right.
But I took the leap of faith, and I have to say I am glad that I did. Really glad.
When the lockdown happened, obviously everyone's world changed.
Mm.
We've talked before that we're lucky because we both have our own home, we have a garden space, we have animals in our life. But being at home during lockdown is tough.
Mm.
Um, we haven't had someone in their 20s, I think, coming through these lockdown sessions to kind of talk about what was it like? Like, what did you notice over those lockdowns last year and then into this year, like in yourself, in your friends? You are the generation, as you said, of people who would want to connect and want to be close to each other, and yet you're also very comfortable living digitally. So, what was it like when you just were all told you can't see your mates, you've got to stay at home, and that's it, and then we'll go into the pub?
Well, for me personally, I had just moved back to Exeter to get settled before my MA started.
Yeah.
I was living with my best mate, so that was all really lovely. Like, that was a comfortable situation. We lived together before, but I wanted, to enjoy the fruits of the city. And 2 weeks after I moved there, everything got locked down. And I was like,
Good timing.
oh, brilliant. So this was a great time to move then. Um, and I think the thing that was so difficult was just not being able to just go out and just just go out, go to the pub. I'm not a big pub goer, a big party goer, but the option to go for a stroll and bump into people that you might know, go to the shops. It's quite similar, I feel, for people across generations, but to be able to, just go and live life outside and, potentially, meet people and forge new friendships or reconnect with old friendships. And not having that option anymore, I think obviously for everyone was so hard, just not having the opportunities, whether you wanted to go out or not, just the option not being there. But as you said, being more accustomed to the digital world of social media and communicating online, something that I did grow up with, that played a huge part in me maintaining my mental health and just maintaining any sort of form of connection with people that I love and missed. My family are all in the East, most of my friends are all in the Southeast. So I was in the Southwest, and so it was mostly just consisted of video calls all the time, and messaging and phone calls. And I used to get awful headaches just from staring at the screen all the time, but that was the only option. Everyone to a large extent is a very social creature, and I just, you just have to sort of take what you can. And Zoom has just become the new the new way of being.
I did see a funny skit the other day where you had the head of Skype complaining to the head of Zoom that they just copied what Skype did, but for some reason it's a cooler name, and that's why it's taken off. But you're right. My dad's setting up Zoom calls with his mates on his mobile, and then he's going and sitting on his computer and he's loving it. But I do wonder, because as someone who was then at Exeter, your family is away, your friends aren't there. Okay, you're living with someone who's close to you. What was it like? You talk about being able to maintain sort of sanity. I know for me, where I was busy for work, so I wasn't struggling there. There were times when I was just really tired and not myself.
Yeah.
And there were other times where that would stick around for 2 or 3 days, but I had stuff to do. So it was really easy, right? I just put my mind to it. What was happening for you when those, because I think everyone had those waves. So what was happening to you? How did you make sure that you kind of didn't get sucked into a dark place? I'll just say it as it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely did get sucked into a bit of a dark place. In my life, I lost my dog of 14 years, and that was really, really hard.
We're going to give a big shout out to Henry right now, so
love
we
you, Henry.
smile at the thought of him.
Yeah. So that was like really hard for my family and I.
Yeah.
That was a horrible loss to kick off, probably the worst year in a long time. But for me, it was a big, probably the person who got me through it most was Jasper, my roommate, my flatmate in Exeter. We met doing our undergrad at Exeter. We did the same degree, and we lived together for second and third year. And he's just like this, I don't know, he's just this hilarious, sort of vibrant, clown-like figure. And his joy and like love and just ability to make me laugh and the way we made each other giggle genuinely brought me all the way through it. There were days that were very bad, staying in bed, not doing anything. My masters hadn't started yet, so
right.
I was sort of in limbo, and I was working part-time, so I had some, I was teaching a little bit, but majority of the time I wasn't working. So yeah, it was it was really tough, but it was, the giggles with Jasper, cooking and making sure we fed ourselves interesting meals or nice meals, or having that to look forward to, and also taking myself out for walks, just sort of
you
like
put a
dog.
lead around your wrist and walk yourself.
Exactly. I came from having walking dogs all the time, being a primary carer for at least 2 dogs like every day, to having no dogs in my company. So what I knew was, we'll go out for a walk. So I'd go out for a walk and see other dogs, and
See other
that helped.
dogs.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I have to say that there's a particular beach in Israel where I used to work in Tel Aviv, and it's right at the end of the sort of pier area, the beach area, and it's known as Dog Beach. And whenever I've gone to work in Israel, when we used to be able to, I would always book a hotel right by Dog Beach,
Well,
because at the end of the
absolutely.
day, I like nothing more than going and sitting with my feet in the ocean, in the sea, and dogs running around. And every now and then I'd throw a ball for one into the sea, and it was great.
Yeah, exactly right. They're just watching them enjoy the elements and have their freedom and a lovely setting. What more could you want? That sounds like an ideal holiday. You don't need a dog. You just need to go and, well, I think you need a dog. Everyone needs a dog to some extent.
Yeah, let's just change that one. We do. We all need a dog.
Yeah, we all need a dog for that emotional support. But yeah, no, that sounds lovely. Exactly. Seeing animals are a massive deal, and we've seen, I guess, from the massive influx of people getting puppies and dogs in this last year, and also, you know, cats and lots of other animals, but particularly I feel like dogs have, you know, really become extremely popular as pets this year, which I think is interesting.
I worry a little bit about that, actually.
Mm.
I have a concern that as we approach the summer and people want to kind of get away more and do things, I think we're going to find a lot of animals that aren't as loved as maybe they were last summer, when
Yeah.
nobody could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Having said that, I know there are more responsible owners than not. Look, I'm interested in you talk about kind of Jasper's humor and kind of open love for just, you know, probably you and the world. I've met Jasper and know what he's like with Rocky. I see care emanating from him. When you look back now over the year, what do you think you've learned about yourself? Like, did you surprise yourself? Did you not surprise yourself? Were you really resilient, more resilient? Like, what have you observed? Like, reflect back over the last 12 months of Sabina, and it's like, well, what do you see?
I think I have been more resilient than I thought I would be. If someone had said to me a few years ago, this is going to be happening, I just would have just broken down and probably slept for a month.
Right.
But I mean, I think most people would. But I did really surprise myself, because the loss of animals that have been in my life for a long time. My aunt unexpectedly passed away in May as well. There was huge loss in my family, and I was surprised at how I managed to not let myself, or be lucky enough to not fall down such a dark hole, to a place that, you know, I have been before, and was trying really hard not to get there again. I think the key for me has always been to try and think of 8-year-old Sabina and the hopes and dreams that that little queer kid had. I remember just being like, when I'm big and grown up, I want to have my own hamster, and I want to have my own dog, and I want to, like, you know, have a very special bond with both of them. I don't really care about much else. And that's it. And, you know, I, without all the distractions of going to the pub, going to the shops, parties, you know, the social distractions that are obviously lovely and a very important part of life, but having that all stripped away, how can I make myself happy when I'm not relying, or you can't rely on, the general distractions and social spaces that we've always had access to? So, and if I look back, my desires and my love have always been for animals, caring for animals, having my own and doing the best by them. So I've had a hamster before, but I when the shops opened up in July or whatever, 2020 or June, I went and picked myself up a new baby hamster, and that made me extremely happy. She's a lovely girl. She's called Maple, and she lives in my bedroom with me. And I'd always wanted my own dog. I was a puppy walker for guide dogs when I left university for about a year and a half, and that was wonderful. But I had to give the dog back, which I knew. Which,
but Yannick was a good dog.
Oh, he was excellent, and I loved it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I had to give him back, and I knew that, and that was still tough. But and I'm glad I didn't get my own dog straight away from leaving university, because I wanted to see if I could handle that level of responsibility. And is that something I really, really want? And it was, fundamentally. So I wanted to manifest that for myself as well. And you've got people saying you're a bit too young, or do you want to be tied down like that? And I'm like, yes, actually I do. I need a dog to ground me.
Tie me down now.
Tie me down. Otherwise I'm just going to sort of float off into the abyss, and who knows what will happen up there. So I made it, having the months after I lost my personal dog and giving the guide dog puppy back, I was it was a lot of pain, and I had so much love that I didn't know what to do with. And that's what people say about missing things, right? Is that it's that missing is having all this love and not knowing where to put it. And so I manifested for myself to get my own dog. And what would make 8-year-old Sabina a happy little bean. And and I managed to do that for myself, and having these things to look forward to. I mean, I'm very privileged and being able to get a dog. I live with my mom, so I can, we can have a dog here. She owns the house, etc., and I have the fun. So, all of that is obviously I'm really lucky to have. But I just thought there's no point. The quality of my life, emotionally, physically, is just nowhere near as it could be. And health has been, over this last year, it's been, I mean, health is obviously always important, but this last year, health, mental and physical health, have been, at the forefront of our minds. So I just thought, let's dive in, let's do it. And now I, year after lockdown happened, I have my own dog, and have never been happier. So I've made that 8-year-old Sab very pleased little bean.
It's great, I love the fact that you've got an 8-year-old girl inside you that you look after. I think that's really important. It's another reason we connect. I've got an 8-year-old boy, and he needs looking after. I can't let him run my life, by the way. So at times I have to be a little bit tougher on him. But there are moments when actually his needs need to be met. And if they're not, then I'll end up playing up somehow. So better to meet them. But also what you say about having so much love to give. I know when I lost my Labrador, and Amber was a similar age to Henry, and was, really got old at the end, and it was tough watching it. And I always think in those last moments, which are the worst of being a dog owner, you can't imagine having another dog. You just can't. And I remember for 4 or 5 months, I just was beside myself, actually, with grief for the loss of this Labrador. But I remember going for a walk, taking myself off for a walk, where perhaps I would have gone. And just in our local fields here, and I was sitting on a bench just looking out of the field, and I just thought to myself, I can love another dog. It's got to go somewhere. And I think that's why animals are so brilliant for children, because they teach not just us as adults, but they teach kids and adults, all of us, don't they, about unconditional love. Not the dog giving to us giving to them, right? When people say to you, you don't want to be tied down, well, one, they might not understand you, but two, who says you'll be tied down? You'll just go everywhere with the dog.
Yeah, exactly. And I get, people, so I'm going to be 25 in about 3 weeks. And people, there's people my age who are engaged, married, have bought houses, some have had kids, and that
Yeah.
is wonderful. I don't want any of those things myself, but those different those things for those people are celebrated. They're like, oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, what an amazing, it's celebrated in a much different way, I think. And then when I'm like, I want my own dog, people are like, ooh, that's a bit, ooh. And I'm like, A, I can do it, I've done it before. And
Yeah.
B, just because I'm not getting married or reproducing, why is this why is this any less important or significant, or I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you have to do what you want to do. I guess that's, I think, yeah, do what you want to do and what will make you happy. And it's hard realizing what will make you happy, because a lot of the time you've got all these other narratives telling you what you need to do, and you want to uphold them so that you don't disappoint people, because ultimately, that can, that has to do with your own happiness. But no one's going to live your life for you. No one's going to give you what you need to be happy other than you. So if you don't
Mm.
go after it and manifest it, then you're lost.
I'm interested in this because in my world, particularly around coaching and leadership, we talk about authenticity
Mm.
and being congruent. So
Mm-hmm.
your actions and your behavior and your values all need to be aligned somehow. One of
Mm-hmm.
the big themes going through corporates these days is around inclusive leadership and becoming more inclusive in our approach. So not just a D&I agenda, in collaboration, in the way we are cognizant of our bias. From a leadership point of view, most leaders in the global corporate world are white, privileged, middle-aged men.
Mm.
So what they can learn about all of these different areas is enormous, and I include myself in that age bracket and in that ridiculous kind of line, that list of things that we are, which is white, middle aged, privileged men.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
As someone who lives in a very real world where you see privilege and you see a lack of inclusion, has the pandemic and the way the world kind of changed and shifted? Have you seen any changes in inclusivity, in compassion for people, in behaviors? Or is the world still as horrid as it was last year? And actually, we've not become more compassionate and empathic at all. So it's all just a dream.
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I wish I could give a really good answer, but this is what I have. So people not having the general distractions of what they used to have, and the tragic killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor last year, meant that the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement was able to come into more fruition throughout, not just Black people's like sort of social media, but also white people's, because they didn't, the world closed down. So, well, I guess we'll just care a bit more about these things, I guess. Social media has become so integral to everything. But so, and there was a great movement of support. Not all of it was to great effect, but there was a much bigger movement in protesting against these killings, police violence, and the treatment of Black lives in the US and also throughout the world. And I think that without the pandemic, without this shutting everything down, I don't, obviously these kinds of, horrible murders happen to Black people in America all the time. Like it's not new. This isn't a one-off. But in that critical moment in May last year, I think that because the world was shut down, or the Western world was very much shut down, it allowed people to be more, and because people were relying on social media for everything, their social life, they're looking at something new, having some kind of life. In some ways, I think that meant that people were willing to pay more attention to these issues, to the issue of Black lives being completely disregarded, because they didn't have the sort of distractions, I guess, to sort of ignore it as well. And now we had that big rise up in last summer, and obviously there are still amazing hardworking activists still happening now, and the trial is happening in America right now for the killing of George Floyd, but Breonna Taylor, no justice there. Nothing's happened in terms of prosecuting the people who shot her when she was sleeping. And it's quieter online. And is that because things are sort of more open, or people are more used to living in this way, so they aren't, their energies aren't sort of focused on those things that matter? I don't know. That's obviously that's one aspect, but I don't know. I think that people have, in general, been more aware of issues of social injustice and really horrible things that happen around the world. But ultimately, what can be done? It's like scrolling through social media, especially as a young person. You follow a lot of activist accounts and news outlets that aren't just the BBC, and you see all these stories and all these experiences of people that aren't that aren't as socially privileged. And I think it's almost like you become a bit numb to it, because you just see it all the time. And I've got no idea what the answer is, but I feel like to an extent people have become more aware of things that are happening, that are unfair, but there is still an unbelievable amount of work that needs to be done to actually put things in place so that attitudes change and people are being good allies and calling out racism, calling out transphobia, calling out ableism on a daily basis. And people who are being called out are learning that it's not a personal attack on you. This is actually how you can talk about what you're talking about in a better way. And people not being so defensive and being like, oh, not all men, or not all straight people, or not all white people, blah blah blah. It's like, it's not about that. That doesn't matter, because that's not that's not helpful to the conversation. That's actually taking away. Sorry, I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but it's such a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and my slight concern is what I see is kind of like the reverse side of the cancel culture we live in now. So I saw what was happening globally after what happened to George Floyd, and I mean, it's just horrific. The world stopped. They couldn't help but stop. I'm not even sure we wouldn't have stopped, pandemic or not. It was horrific. But beyond a number of people in my social feed posting a black screen on their Instagram with a hashtag of BLM, I'm not sure what else they did to really consider. So what happens is everybody does get on it for a while, and then, like most things, it does dissipate.
Yeah, the trend of caring about Black lives.
Because there's something else to care about a few weeks later. There's another hash. So we live in a world of hashtag moments now. Ooh, and actually, whatever is the hashtag of the moment, and let's see how long it lasts. But actually, we have hourly trending hashtags. So that's the culture we live in.
Yeah, that quick turnaround of public interest, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
And popularity.
Look, you study film, how long are most scenes in movies? People's attention spans.
I mean, I struggle to watch a film that's beyond 2 hours.
Right. I think the average concentration span is something like less than 30 seconds before people genuinely look to be distracted. I don't know about you, but if I'm out and I'm on roaming and I try and get onto one of my apps, if it doesn't load within, I don't know, 3 seconds, I'm off there.
Yeah.
I'm
Me too.
No, I haven't got the patience to wait 3 seconds to connect.
8-year-old Brad is really taking over there.
Come on, get a move on. Turn off Wi-Fi. Try it. No, it's still not working. Right, I'm not using YouTube anymore.
Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it?
First world problems.
Truly. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, yeah, the quickness of which trends come alive and then dissipate, and the way that people quickly move on, because before you know it, there's actually another disaster happening somewhere else. So we've actually we've thought about that one a bit. Okay, we'll send our thoughts and prayers, and then something else bad will happen, and then we'll go over there and then say, oh, sending thoughts and prayers. Because I mean, like, what can you, like, obviously there's conversations that can be had in your daily life, but money, for example, that people and activists try and raise to, help families, in the instance of like Black Lives Matter, help families get lawyers and give them financial support to get through these horrible times. That materially actually helps those people. And obviously fundraising and GoFundMe is great. And it means that we can all feel like we can contribute in our own little way and maybe tick off that, like, oh, I've not been a racist today, I've donated £5 to this family. But ultimately, there are people in this world who have billions and billions of pounds or dollars or whatever. Why is it us? Why is it the people who don't have all the money in the world that are caring and willing to give large percentages of what they actually earn per month?
It's when you do it on a pro rata basis, it does get uncomfortable for the billionaires, for most of them. Not your Bill Gates and your Warren Buffett, because they've got foundations where they've given all their money away. I mean, they can't do more than what they've done. But I know when people look at Mr. Elon Musk and
Amazon man,
Jeff Bezos,
yeah.
And I'm sure a number of others. Listen, Jeff's case wasn't helped by his ex-wife, I think, putting 5 billion into charities in I think the last couple of months, which obviously highlights how little he puts in, although I'm sure he does compared to what he's earning. But then, here's a question, and this is where, from my white, middle-aged, privileged position, the question I'm sure is born here. Surely we shouldn't be judging anybody on what they're doing with their money that they've earned. Like, I try not to be judgmental as a coach, because I hear your argument and I kind of, I'm nodding along, but then I'm thinking, who am I to, like, it's his money, he can do what he likes with it, no? But people are getting funny about it as well. So,
I mean, maybe I'm just a hashtag radical young person, but no, no one needs that much money. No one. I don't care that he earned it. No one needs that much money. It's extortionate and it's disgusting. What about all the workers who still, like, there's plenty of workers at Amazon, for example, who can't afford, like in America and stuff, who can't afford to live in a house or live in their car. Like, there shouldn't be the point where people are working for these massive, multi-billion dollar companies and they can't have access to basic housing or health insurance in America, for example. No, I don't think that anyone needs that much money. I think there should be a cap on it. I
Well,
know that.
there is. I mean, there's caps on on tax allowances, on earnings before you get allowances. So there are caps, and they've
Mm,
tried to introduce one into the world of football to
mm,
cap salaries, and it used
good.
to be, but you can't do that because free trade says, and a common commercial market says, I can charge what I want for my goods, and you will decide whether or not you want to pay for it. So the only
Okay.
way to hurt people is, if it's football, it's don't go to the games, don't walk through. But
Mm,
I guarantee you, if 10,000 people decided not to go to, watch Liverpool, there'll be 10,000 waiting to walk through the door.
yeah.
And if 10,000 people boycott Amazon, I know two or three people who do, there's millions signing
It
up
won't
for
make a
Amazon Prime.
difference.
No,
No, no, and exactly. I mean, that's it. And I don't know the
so as a
answer.
young person, how do you create sort of hope when actually there is that kind of almost fatalism of, what can we do? What can we do about these causes? What can we do about charities? In this example,
Mm,
almost getting people to donate more because they can.
mm. Um, oh, I wish I had all the answers. I mean, I think a big part of it is not putting so much pressure on yourself to try and make everything right. I think that's I don't know if other people ever find this, but you just hear about all these horrible things and all the things that are wrong, and you just feel despair. So yeah, like you said, like where do you get this hope from? I get hope from love. Um, like I love loving animals and people, and I don't know, it's the only thing that I know that I can do is to like give love and feel love for myself and for the people close to me and the animals close to me is what gives me hope. Like it's that's just it. Facebook groups, um, finding people who have similar interests to you, having fun, laughing. Like it's you're not, as people obviously do become really successful and change the world, but like ultimately most of us, we're gonna just mooch along. We'll be probably not famous, we're just gonna do our thing. We probably won't earn a lot of money, and that's not our fault. People work very hard and don't earn a lot of money.
Yeah, that's very true.
I me included. And it's trying to find the joy in the everyday. Oh, I sound like an IKEA advert now, but it's trying to it's trying to find that joy where you can. And it's not easy, and sometimes you still have really bad days, even though you know that you have people that you love and that you talk to and that your animals are still there for you. It doesn't help. Mental illness doesn't take a day off. um yeah, I don't know.
That's quite a nice line, though, isn't it? Mental illness doesn't take a day off. You're so right, which is why it's important to do the things, going back to what you said earlier, do the things that are really important to you. Because if you're
Mm,
not doing those things, then actually you're doing yourself a disservice, quite
yeah,
frankly. I
and it's
also
different for
love,
different people.
of course, right? But I love the fact that your hope comes from loving, because actually that doesn't matter how you feel. If you love, then you love, whether you're having a good day or a bad day.
Mm,
Actually, I imagine it helps on the bad days and makes the good days even better. So that's quite a
right.
nice kind of linkage
It's
to,
Yeah,
to
it's love for my dog gets me up every day. I can't wait to see her. I can't wait to see how she slept. How are your dreams, Nova? She's so cute. I don't know if I've told you this, but she sleeps so deeply. When she wakes up, she's got little dried bits of drool on her face, and it's so cute. I can't. It's so cute.
well, Nova's very photogenic. So you'll need to capture that and see if you can get away with making it still look cute with sort of dried, congealed
Oh, it's
dog
adorable.
drool.
Adorable.
Look, I'll give you one last question and then we can wrap up today. Um, what's been your biggest learning this last year?
Oh. Mm. My biggest learning is, oh, this is so hard. Let's have a think. My biggest learning is doing for me what makes me happy, and not comparing myself to other people's lives and what they're doing in their success, because I know that what they do wouldn't actually make me happy.
Right.
And not feeling lesser than, or less important or less valuable just because you do things differently to other people. Finding what drives you, and what makes how I get through each day is it's just how I do. And getting through each day one at a time is how is just, sometimes that's all you can do, and that's fine, and that's okay. And there are days where you will have bad days, you do nothing, maybe nothing in the sense that you don't do any work or whatever. And there are some days that'll be better, and that more often than not bad days will come. And it's just getting through. It's finding the little things each day that you can eat, drink, look at, um, things that you can speak or sing along to, that you're responsible for your mood and your attitude towards yourself and your attitude towards other people. And harnessing your power and harnessing your love for yourself will only make it easier and more harmonious to be alongside other people, and love in such a difficult world where
It can be.
yeah.
I like that. I've always thought we should be like DJs to the soundtracks in our head, right? So if you don't like the music, change it.
Mm,
And
yeah.
what you focus on will grow. So if you can catch yourself in those moments, I think that's a lovely learning. And you know what's so interesting? I was speaking to somebody yesterday who's mid-50s,
Mm,
asking him what his learnings had been over the last year, and he almost said the same thing, identical to what you just.
mm,
It's about having a purpose, knowing what's driving you to get out of bed every day,
mm,
and to live that purpose as true as you can, because then the shit that goes on around,
mm,
that's just noise. It will carry on. It will
mm,
be something else this year, no doubt. We'll all be arguing, the 4 years that we argued about Brexit. Now I think it's COVID passports will be the next big argument to,
yeah.
completely split countries down the middle. And we'll all be arguing on
Yeah.
Facebook about that. Give me another reason to not go on to my social media accounts.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but I love that. I love that perspective that you give, because actually it's such a positive framing. It's a grateful framing.
Mm,
And yes, it is hard, and other people have had it so much harder. But if
mm,
we don't take responsibility for ourselves, and I think this is such a cool message you're giving, if you don't take responsibility for yourselves, actually, no one's going to be able to help you.
mm,
So take control. In fact, I think it's a lesson for mental well-being, quite frankly.
mm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I absolutely love the throw you've got wrapped around you. It looks it
It's
looks like
great.
the kind of thing that a dog would want to curl under while you're sat on the sofa watching a movie.
Oh no, no dog hairs getting on this. This is a gift. This is expensive, darling. So no, keeping this to myself.
That's dog friendly. Sabina Messent, thank you so much for coming on. I'd say we'll bring you back, but of course the lockdown sessions are finishing in about 3 weeks' time. So we'll have to bring you back on another iteration and talk movies or something.
Yeah, or Cardi B. Any, WAP was a great reason that got me through lockdown. So go listen to WAP.
Great
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, WAP all the way. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling bad about yourself, put on WAP. And I promise you'll feel better. Or anything by Megan Thee Stallion. But yeah. But no, thank you for having me. I think it's great that you're doing these sessions, reflecting on lockdown lessons and having different perspectives. I think it's great, and it's made me think more critically about what my life has been like this last year. So thank you. And I feel it almost feels a bit cathartic, doesn't it,
Yeah,
having this chat.
well, especially as an ex-humanities student. I mean, come on, you've got to have a good old chat.
Oh yeah, we love to chin wag. That's what we do. So yeah, anytime you want to have me back, I will talk about something else.
Sabina, thank you. Enjoy your day, enjoy your dog, and enjoy Maple.
You too. Thank you, Brad.
See you later.
See you later.